Erasing the N-word from history. Hello, I'm Kevin Canals, a local history researcher, and I am at Black Miners Bar along what used to be the American River. It is now Lake Natoma, but it was a geographical location of what was referred to as Negro Bar. I recently attended a public display and exhibit of local history here in Sacramento County, and I was shocked that they used a map that included the N-word on it. I don't know if it was an oversight. I'm hoping they don't think that the N-word on maps is historical, because it's not, and I'll show you why. The N-word is offensive. It should not be used in any public displays. So this area was known as Negro Bar. There was a collection of black individuals that were mining here, and that's how it got its name. And that was not uncommon. Mormon Island got its name from the Mormon battalion that stopped there and did gold mining in 1848. There was New York Bar because there was a bunch of people from New York that were working that area, and there's Rattlesnake Bar because there was a lot of rattlesnakes. So a lot of those place names, some of them have changed and some of them stuck and were transferred over to maps. But the N-word was never transferred until later on by people outside of California. So even on early maps, 1860, we have Negro Bar at the base of Folsom, and Negro Hill, where many of the black individuals, when they left this area, went up about 5 miles to the northeast and settled on a hill in South El Dorado County above the South Fork of the American River. And that became known as Negro Hill. In a letter to Amos Catlin, who had organized the Natoma Ditch, Augustus T. Arrowsmith wrote, both the Negro Hill and Alder Creek ditches, he was giving an update on the progress of it. So individuals at that time were using the term Negro. They weren't using the racial epithet. Now, I have seen that term used in some newspapers, usually from someone who was writing a letter to the editor, or it happened to be a very Confederate-oriented newspaper would use it, but in general, it wasn't around. It really got put on the map when Theodore Judah created the map of the future town site of Folsom, and that was the terminus for the Sacramento Valley Railroad, which was Negro Bar. And so you can see that he put that on the map. Now, I have did not see any references to the N-word on maps until more federal government people got involved. And the first one that I've seen that was brought to my attention was there was a 1914 USGS quad map that used the N-word to describe Negro Bar. There's several different iterations of that 1914 map, and it shows up on the 1922 version. In 1925, I found a Sacramento County Assessor's map that someone had written in pencil in that area the racial epithet for Negro Bar. And that was not an official entry. As you can see, that the map is blue line, and so someone wrote that in. So it was someone's determination that they needed to identify that with the racial epithet. In 1941, we see the maps from the Folsom Quad USGS where they continue to use the N-word for Negro Bar and Negro Hill. Now, in 1954, the maps were updated. They were building Folsom Dam, Folsom Lake, and USGS obviously got the message that you don't use the N-word on official maps. And it was changed to Negro Bar and Negro Hill. However, the Army Corps of Engineers, who was overseeing the construction of Folsom Dam, they didn't get the message, they didn't get the memo, and they needed to transfer the cemetery, re-enter the cemetery's that were in the burials that were in the footprint of Folsom Lake over to the new Mormon Island Relocation Cemetery. And there were times where there was no name, they just knew that there was a body buried there. And so they had these little concrete grave markers, unknown, moved from Doton's Bar Cemetery. And for those individuals that were buried at Negro Hill, they put unknown, moved from the racial epithet Hill Cemetery. There was a lot of pushback and outcry in the 2000s, and the Army Corps of Engineers went back and replaced those grave markers and then noted it moved from the Negro Hill Cemetery. Now, this area was known as the Negro Bar State Park. In the last year, it has been renamed to the Black Miners Bar. Even the term Negro has some negative connotations for people. I get it, I understand it, that's okay. Negro Bar is never going away, it's on official maps, but that racial epithet, and sometimes even Negro, has a lot of baggage with it. Sometimes people will view it as noting a racial inferiority, a derogatory term, white supremacy. Now, I'm not saying that a discussion of the use of the N-word in history is out of bounds, but it needs to be in a particular setting where everything is discussed. You cannot put the N-word in a public display without any context as to why it's there. If a racial epithet like the N-word is sprayed on a house, the owners and the community rally around to immediately paint over it, wipe it out, erase it, because it is so offensive. So why would an organization use it in a public display where children would see that? I'm not sure. But it doesn't need to be there. It needs to be wiped out from any historical references that are on public display for anyone to see. So, for history along what used to be the American River, I'm Kevin Knaus.